I've been dealing with Paul's qualifications of the bishop. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach. And I finished up with the matter of teaching on the program yesterday. Now we arrive at verse number 3, not given to wine. Now there's a positive and a negative in the structure, the sentence structure the translators use here in the King James text. The first of these is found in verse number 2, positively given to hospitality. And now we have a negative in verse number 3, not given to wine. The word given, the idea that is transmitted here is that one has a disposition to a certain thing. We say that individual over there is given to conversation. In other words, they like to talk, and it's easy to carry on a conversation with them. And some people are given to certain things, and other people are given to certain things. Well, the pastor, the bishop, is to be given to hospitality. The matter of hospitality is to be natural to him. It's just to come out of him. He is to be given over to that. I've been around a few people in the course of my life, and so have you, that put on hospitality. I've heard people say that person has a telephone voice. They sound like a telemarketer. They have a telephone voice, and a lot of hypocrisy involved in that. There are some people you can tell when they put on a smile and put on hospitality. Now that individual, in my understanding, will not be given to hospitality, where the matter of hospitality is just natural. It's kind of a natural outflowing of who they are and of what they are. This negative, though, conversely, they're to be given to hospitality, but by the same token, they are not given to wine. Now, I understand that in society that there are people that have predispositions to certain things. And we strive with the flesh as born-again believers. We battle with the flesh. We do warfare with the flesh. The Apostle Paul stated, I beat my body and bring my body into subjection. None of us would just turn ourselves loose. We would be humiliated. We'd be embarrassed by daybreak tomorrow morning if we just turned ourselves over to the thoughts of our mind and to the passions of our heart and to the things that we have in our minds. There's some things go through my mind that I wouldn't tell anyone under any circumstance. I'm terribly ashamed of some of the things that I think from time to time, and some of the things I think about people from time to time. I'm mortified by the depravity of my own heart. And the prophet Jeremiah talks about the depth of depravity that a man's heart can go to. Now, there are certain things that people are given to. They're given over to certain things. They have a tendency, a propensity to do certain things, to behave in certain ways. I've been around some people that were given to work, W-O-R-K. I mean, they just, every time I ever saw them, they were working. And they have just a predisposition. Their nature is such. They just work. They work all the time. They work when they're relaxing. They work all the time. I've been around some people that are given to laziness. And one old boy said one time, that fellow's not afraid of work. He'll lay down right beside it and go sound asleep. And I've seen people given to that. The text says not, negatively now, not given to wine. Now it's interesting that Paul would bring this up. And the reason the Apostle Paul addresses this matter with the bishop is because it was a problem. Alcohol was a problem in Paul's day like it's a problem in our day. I've never had a drop of alcohol in my body in my life. I don't know what any alcoholic beverage tastes like. I don't know what it is to be intoxicated, and I don't have a plan to find out. I've never taken any drugs of any kind. Never smoked pot, never have taken meth, snorted cocaine. I've never done any kind of drugs. I don't ever plan to start. I can become a lot of things, but there's two things that I can't become. I can't become an alcoholic, because every alcoholic took his first drink. And there are no alcoholics on earth that never took their first drink. And I'll never be a drug addict, because if a drug addict took their first hit or injection or smoked dope, they all did it for the first time, and that led them into a life of drug addiction. And I've never taken dope, so I'll never become a drug addict. I might become a lot of things, but I'll never become an alcoholic. I've never opened that door and allowed that problem to begin in my life. And I know my personality. I'm a very compulsive type personality. I don't own one of anything. If I like something, I have a lot of it. I like certain things, and I have a lot of them. And I know my personality, and the best thing I could do is never take my first drink and never take dope. So Paul addresses the matter concerning the bishop not given to wine. Not given to wine. Now I hear all kind of definitions, and some say that it's okay for the bishop, the pastor, to drink socially or to drink wine with his meals, but he's not to be an alcoholic. Well, every alcoholic began by socially drinking. Many of them began by drinking in a social setting. I don't know of many men that at 19 or 20 years old drove by an ABC store and said, I think I'll go in there and buy a fifth of hard liquor, having never had a drink. I mean, generally everybody is introduced to alcohol in a social setting. Somebody else is drinking and they offer them a drink, or they say, try this and see if you like it. The same with drugs. So I don't think that's the definition at all. There is no doubt that we have many good men. Oliver B. Green, one of my heroes, and he was an alcoholic when God saved him. And I have a preacher friend of mine in the upstate. I preach for him every year, and the man has given his testimony to me. And the man was an alcoholic when the grace of God found him, and when God saved him, he was an alcoholic. And I appreciate that man and preach for him and love him in the Lord. I don't know that the matter of given to wine could be defined in the light of the context and in the light of the context of Scripture. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, whosoever deceiveth thereby is not wise. In the book of Habakkuk, woe to the man that giveth the bottle, putteth the bottle to his brother's lip. In the light of those prohibitions on the matter of drinking, I don't know that not given to wine could be that it's okay for the pastor to drink socially, but just as long as he doesn't drink to excess or is not an alcoholic. There is no other vice of the flesh that is addressed that way in the Bible. We use the matter of adultery or fornication. It'd be all right for the pastor to have adulterous affairs just so long as his affairs are outside the church. It's the same nonsense as trying to justify that the pastor can drink in a social setting but should not become an alcoholic. It'd be just as ridiculous as saying it's all right for the pastor to have a girlfriend just so long as she's not a part of the membership of this church. The matter of giving, again, I go back to the King James Bible's its own best dictionary, and we stay in the light of its context. The pastor is to be given to hospitality, but he is not to be given to wine. He is to have a tendency. The matter of hospitality is to be a natural thing to him. My grandfather was not a glad-hander nor a backslapper, but he was one of the most hospitable people I have ever met that was naturally hospitable. He had an open door policy. His door of his office was never shut. Even when he was not there, he didn't shut and lock the door. And there were a few staff members that would go by his office and read the mail on his desk, being nosy back in those days. But my grandfather's door was always open. It was never closed. If my grandfather's door was closed, you knew that business had picked up on White Horse Road. I mean, it was bad. Something bad was happening in there. Somebody was getting fired if his door was shut. It had an open door policy. And he was a genuinely hospitable to everybody that walked up and down the hallway, everybody that passed by his office. But he was not a backslapper. He was not a glad-hander. He was not a politician. He didn't make it a practice to shake hands and kiss babies. But he was truly a hospitable man. He was given over to that. Okay, in the same light, the bishop is not to be given to wine. He is not to be given to wine. Truly, God saves and God forgives. But when a sinner is saved, that's the end of his alcoholism. That's the end of his social drinking. That's the end of the practice of using intoxicating beverages or intoxicants in his life. What a tragedy to have to sit in a congregation and wonder whether or not I'm hearing my minister preach to me under the influence of alcohol. Or wonder if my pastor was intoxicated on Friday night or Saturday night and that he is sobered up enough to stand before the congregation on Sunday. The matter of intoxicants, these should be put out of our lives as believers. All of us put out of our lives as believers. I don't care if the doctor prescribes it or not. The doctor may write you a prescription for marijuana. As a born-again believer, that's one prescription I'd never have filled. I had surgery, and they prescribed to me oxycodone and gave me oxycodone from the hospital. I never took one of them, Remember, I know my personality. I'm a compulsive personality. I never took one of them. I was more afraid of those little oxycodone pills as I was a copperhead that I killed the other day on my land. My time has gotten away from me. The Lord willing, on the program tomorrow, I'll pick up with the next qualification where Paul states, no striker. I'll deal with that by the grace of God then.
The Bright Spot Hour, Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 29602.